Welcome into a live episode of the Bengals Beat Podcast. We're super excited because typically it's just Jason and I, and we think we're pretty entertaining, but we have a very special guest, so we're super excited to have Andrew Whitworth here. So everyone give him a warm welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Happy to be here.
Thanks so much for joining us. We have so much we want to talk to you about, and we know you have a ton to do today getting ready for the broadcast, so we'll try and get through as much as we can. But I just want to ask, how's it feel being back in Cincinnati?
Oh, it's been awesome. I got the chance because we were in Cleveland last week for a game. My wife and kids came in this weekend, and so we kind of spent the last 3-4 days just hanging out around the city, and it's been a blast.
So you came from Cleveland, and then you said you just stayed here. What were some of your favorite things that you've done so far?
Obviously, just, hitting all the good food spots, places we used to love to go when we lived here. And then, we went and checked out kind of our old neighborhood and let the kids see their old school. None of them have been back since we left in free agency, so that was their first time back. So it was really fun. The kids had it took a little while, but they get somewhere and realize they'd remember things about certain parts of the town and stuff. So it was fun. Got them some Grater's ice cream, all the essentials. We got it all in.
What's their favorite flavor?
The kids went mint chocolate chip yesterday. That was their jam. That was their thing yesterday. So I don't know. Every day it changes. You know how kids are. So it always changes whenever we go get ice cream what their favorite is.
Whit, you're in town for you're one of the color analysts on Amazon Prime. How did all that come about to be on Thursday Night Football? And was this something you really wanted to do for a long time when you realized when your career was over?
I think when I decided to retire, I wanted to be involved in the game. I think media is something that I always enjoyed my relationships throughout my time in the league, with the media, and always felt like it was, something I enjoyed doing, but never anything I ever thought I would do, be a part of or really be involved in. But when I retired, I in my mind, it was I want to be involved in the game that's changed my life and that I have a passion for. I love to mentor and be there for young players throughout the league. And then I also love just the day-to-day things that make organizations good and what you would probably call front office type work. And so I kind of just try to assess what of those would I want to do or be a part of. And there was a lot of cool offers and opportunities to be involved in the league and possibly some kind of help in a front office or a team, especially with the Rams at the time, and then other opportunities there. And then there was some, obviously a lot of people throughout my time that would love me to coach. I don't have any interest in doing that right now, but I kind of felt like I can still coach the way I like to as far as mentoring guys and helping guys from afar.
Yeah.
So media felt like the best opportunity to still be involved with my family and my kids a lot and kind of coach or help them and be around. And then also talk about the game I love and the passion I have for it and how much I love the game of football. So I started doing interviews with all the different networks and trying to figure out what would fit our schedule the best. And, it ended up being, I really thought the whole time, this Amazon was always my number one. It was my favorite just because I love the concept of Thursday Night Football, being in the arena, being in the environment. I had some really cool offers in that way, and just I think Amazon was the best that I really felt at home and wanted to be a part of NFL on Prime. So it's been unbelievable and so much fun, and I'm really, really glad with my choice right now.
You talk about being back in Cincinnati, your family, the fun going to Grater's. Is it for you? Is it all? And I know there were some tough how you left here. Are you at a point now where it's all positive thoughts about Cincinnati and your time here and toward the Bengals organization, or are there still some there's that little thing on your shoulder you're still a little hurt by
I would say you wouldn't be a competitor if you didn't have a little bit of edge. Anytime, I don't care what you do in life, if somebody says that maybe you're done or they don't think you can do something a certain way, I mean, I'd be lying if I said there isn't always going to be some kind of competitive nature. But I feel like, to me, there was never a bitterness with Cincinnati or the organization or any of that. It was more of a disappointment, I guess, right? It's like I always look at it from me in my careers. It wasn't like I hadn't proved it on the field who I was or in the community or anything else. It was more of a, we feel like the best decision for us is to make this decision. It was more of like, I get it why you're making the decision. It was more I was disappointed that you're making it that way. And so I don't know that I've ever really been angry or upset with the city or with the team or anything. I've always kind of loved this place. It's a huge part of my family's life. All my kids were born when I played here, and this place will always be really special to us, and we consider it a home. And so that'll never change. Now it's more fun to be enough removed to where I can come and just enjoy it and support the local teams and just enjoy being a part of Cincinnati.
You still have your house here? Sorry.
Well, no, we don't anymore. No.
Okay.
When you were here, you were really immersed in the community. And so when we shared that you were joining us on the podcast, I think the overall sentiment from the fans, even though you didn't end up ending your career here, and even when you were in the Super Bowl, was that people still remember how much you did in the community and are still such big fans of you and your family. And then you went to LA and you immersed yourself in that community, and then you ended up winning one of the most prestigious awards in any of sports, the Walter Payton Man of the Year. Why was being so involved in the community here in Cincinnati so important to you and your family?
I think for a lot of reasons. I grew up in a mother taught school for 36 years. So I watched her passion for her community and kids my whole life. And I always had an appreciation for that and the effect that you can have on people from a young age. And so it was always important to me to be a part of the community. But also, I came here from Louisiana, didn't know anyone. Me embracing the community was them embracing me as well. So I never forgot what that felt like, to be alone, to be in a new place, and the challenges that brings. And so I always felt throughout my career being involved, and making sure that my life and things I did was more than just about myself. It was about other people around me, was what made me happy. And so I just continued to press on that mentality my entire career, no matter where I was. And I've always had the idea that even when I was here, when I talked to the media, that my thought process for everything was to always leave things better than I found them, and to make sure that my impact was a positive one on people. And I feel like that was what my time in Cincinnati was, and in LA. And so that's probably, to me, what I'm most proud of than anything else, is that football's cool, and there's a lot of really awesome, amazing things that the game of football brings. But the effect to make a difference in people's lives will always outweigh anything that football can accomplish to me. So that's something, to me, will always be what I'll remember.
That's awesome. Well, I wasn't here when you were playing, so I probably can't remember the moments in games that Jason can. So I know he's got some questions for you about your career here in Cincinnati.
Well, that was what I was going to ask you. Just when you do come back here, when you come back to the stadium, and is there a moment or two or three that you remember from on the field that you always just sort of cherish?
Well, I think obviously the support. When you go to bigger cities and bigger teams, like I got the opportunity to play for the LA Rams the last 5 years, you realize, there's positive and negatives to being smaller markets, right? There's certain things that you won't ever be able to do or accomplish from a national perspective, but there's also an appreciation for a city and a state that loves their teams and supports them the way that Cincinnati Bengal fans always have. And that's the one thing in LA that's such a struggle, right? Even in our biggest moments and the more games we won, really hard to ever get the outcome of fans and the support that you'd want to see for a winning program. Whereas here, even in years where we didn't deserve it, there was always so much support, and the passion and energy you felt from the city every time there was a big game, or there was just any game, the Cincinnati Bengals, that it was lifelong love and passion, which rightfully so. LA Rams left LA. I completely get all that, but it's been, one of the things I missed about this place is just that passion and energy you felt from fans all around the city. And then also playing wise, there's lots of them. I can remember, Monday Night Football against the Broncos. I thought that was an awesome game, a lot of fun and great energy, beating them. And then obviously, I got ejected twice. Those are pretty lasting memories, to say the least. My favorite about getting ejected, though, on that subject, is that now I get to give my new counterpart at Amazon and NFL on Prime, Ryan Fitzpatrick, a lot of mess, because if people remember, John Henderson and I got in a fight in the Jacksonville Jaguars game in 2008. We both got ejected, and at that time the NFL did a circle philosophy. If you were within the circle, you got fined for being around the fight. Well, every offensive player for the Cincinnati Bengals was fined after that game for being in the circle, except for one guy. And the one guy was Ryan Fitzpatrick because he ran to the sideline when the fight broke out. So I get to give him crap on a daily basis about that. So it's a lot of fun. But no, I got a ton of great memories. I mean, we won a lot of football games. Unfortunately, we never found a way to get over that hump and win that playoff game. But winning NFL football games is not easy, and it's hard, and it's a challenge. And we did a lot of that in my time here, and it was a really fun. And I'll remember all those people that are involved, from coaches and staff and players, and always have fond memories of it. And obviously, I can't wait to watch my guy Willie tomorrow night.
Yeah, I was getting ready to ask you about that. You're going to go to Willie's event, Willie Anderson, along with you and Anthony Munoz, the great offensive linemen in this franchise's history. What is that like for you to be here for that ring? Well, number one, what is it like for you to see the Bengals even start the Ring of Honor? Because there was so much talk for so many years, certainly the years you were here, about how the Bengals need to do more to honor their history, to really engage the fans. They're really starting to do that now, and this Ring of Honor is part of that. What is that going to be like for you to be there, to see this, and then to also see your friend Willie Anderson be inducted or honored?
Yeah, I think first, I'm just so happy they finally have decided to do it. It's been needed to happen for far, far too long. I almost wish they'd do it twice a year, because there's so many people that, over the years of the time that they've been around that deserve that honor. A lot of older, I know Willie even said this. He was shocked to be, as young as he is, to get the honor already. It was really exciting for him, but there's just so many guys that he wished, would get that opportunity too. And so it's amazing to see it being done, and I can't wait. I mean, Willie Anderson was a great impact and mentor of mine when I came into the league, and somebody that I really, was able to learn a lot of stuff from. So it will make me feel like a little part of me is getting to do it tomorrow night, watching him do it. It'll be very emotional for sure, because Willie gave his heart and soul to this place, and it meant so much to him. And I know tomorrow night means a ton to him too. So it's going to be really cool to get to see him have this opportunity to go in the ring.
You deserve to be in that Ring of Honor as well. No idea what the parameters of that would be, but would you be honored to be in the Ring of Honor if asked?
Yeah, I'd be floored. It'd be unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, look, Willie and I talked about this today. I mean, our careers are very similar. I mean, in the sense of, we both came from SEC schools, came here, had to undertake, a lot with taking over a locker room and the leadership, and got really close in certain times in our career. Didn't quite get there. Never won playoff games together here. And then both ended up going to other teams for, the end of our career. So we had a lot of things similar. And so it's one of those things both of us talk about all the time. I mean, this place means a lot to us. And, I consider this as much home as anywhere else in my life, since I've had the opportunity to understand what that means. So this is always going to be a special place to us, and would be an unbelievable honor for me and my family if it ever happened.
So before we get into the good stuff and talk to you about the game and the current state of the Bengals and all the stuff, that it's been awesome to see you kind of jump in on the Twitter breakdowns now as an analyst. You're doing a great job, which can't wait to pick your brain about that. We have tons of questions. I'm sure you probably know what we want to ask you about. But I want to talk about the Super Bowl from your perspective, because I got a chance to talk to your wife about it. And she was just so grateful for her time in Cincinnati. But she was talking about how LA was the right place for you guys at the time, and what being in LA has brought. When you were talking about you never got over the hump of winning a playoff game here, were you watching the AFC playoffs rooting for the Bengals? And then when you guys beat San Francisco and you realized you were playing the Bengals, your former team, and you, at that point, did you know that was probably going to be your last game, the Super Bowl? Like, what was that, those couple of days, like, as you got ready, you found out you're playing the Bengals, and then it's like, okay, this also might be my last game?
Yeah, I kind of knew when we started the playoffs that was it for me. My wife and I had sat down, and I was like, look, it's our last run. I'm going to give it all I got, and this is it, no matter what happens. Kind of felt like that was it. I had set a goal in 2013. I had surgery on my patella and missed the opening game that season. And I kind of told myself, if I could get over this, because I had basically lost my entire left quad the year before, and could barely do anything with it. And so I had surgery, and I was like, man, if I can get over this, I'm going to try to play till 40, because I feel so good that if I could just get past this situation, I'm going to set a goal to see if I can play as long as I want. And so that was kind of always the goal. And so when I played last season, right at the day after my birthday, I played in the first ever game for a left tackle to start at the age of 40. I knew then that, I had reached a crazy goal that I didn't think was accomplishable. I didn't think it was something I could do. And it happened. And then I knew then when we made the playoffs, I was like, this is it. This is my last run. But to your question about watching the game, yes, actually you can see on the videotape version of we have of going out to pregame warmups, I'm actually late to pregame warmups for the NFC Championship because I was watching the kick at the end of the Bengals-Chiefs game, and I was pretty jacked up. But I was happy and so pumped for Joe and just all the guys, and Zach Taylor, obviously, who I was with in L.A., but I couldn't have been more happy for them. But I also kind of knew, like, in that moment, for whatever reason, like when I ran out there, I was like, we're going to win this game. Like, something's going to happen. We're going to win this game. It's meant to be for me to play against the Bengals in the Super Bowl. And so it was a really special moment. And those 2 weeks were out of this world. Like, just to have been such a big part of this place, and also of just my relationship with Zach and Joe and some of the people here. It was just such a special way to have no idea when the playoffs started I was going to retire. I knew I was going to retire, but I had no idea how it would end. And for it to end playing the two places that I had felt like my entire career was about, and making an impact in those cities and on those teams and in the people in those buildings, was just such a rewarding, just humbling honor to get to end my career that way.
So you talked about Joe Burrow and Zach Taylor, and one of the coolest things that your wife shared with me was that when Joe was rehabbing from his ACL and MCL injury, that you reached out to him because he was out in LA, and that he came over and you two really got to know each other, and he signed your kid's fat head of him. And you just mentioned Zach Taylor. Can you just tell us a little bit more about your relationship with both of them? And you get to see them in ways that none of us get to see them. Like, what do you think makes them both elite in their respective jobs?
Yeah, with Joe is actually funny. He played at LSU, won the national championship. I had never met him before. And so I was just a fan from afar, and, had reached out a couple times on Instagram when LSU had won or whatever, that I just sent him a text like, hey, I know you don't know me, but just congratulations. Really cool what you did for LSU.
Did he respond?
Yeah, and it would just be very, it's Joe, just very surface, like, yeah, thank you, I appreciate it. Very kind, but, quiet. And so I didn't have any other interaction with him. But then I tore my PCL and MCL the week before, and our team, Dr. Neil Elitrosh, did Joe's surgery. The next week is when he tears his ACL. And so Dr. Elitrosh and I are really close friends, golf buddies out in LA, and he was like, listen, like, I've told Joe he needs to meet you, like the impact you'd have, and just him being around you would be great for him. So I think you two need to meet. And I was like, man, I would love to meet him. I've never met him. I've obviously watched him play a ton. I've always been a fan from afar. I'll reach out to him. So he sent me Joe's number, and I did what I've always done since I've been here and everywhere else. And I reached out and just said, hey, look, I'd love to host you at the house, and we'll watch some NFL games and hang out together and have some dinner and just get to know each other. So he said yes, and he came. And since then, we've remained friends and watched some other games together before, watched the draft together one year. We've gotten a chance to be around each other. It's not like we're best buddies. Obviously, there's a huge age gap there, but it's been cool to be around him and just realize how special he is, and what a unique young man he is, and he's going to have an amazing NFL career, and I can't wait to get to watch it. So I'm excited to watch him do his thing. But Zach Taylor obviously was with us in LA. I got the chance to, when he was interviewing here, sit down with him and talk to him about Cincinnati and the pro, and really the team and the organization, and just be a part of that process for him when he was coming to interview, and also got to talk to Cincinnati when they were in the process of hiring him. So I always felt, even though it was a really small part, that I got to be a part of that hire, and I couldn't support Zach more, man. He's a great human being, and a guy who really invests in where he is, in the people, the place, the team, and everything. And, to me, that's what you got to ask for first and foremost. If somebody's willing to invest their time and their passion and their energy into the whole city and the team, you can get into X's and O's and try to beat people up about wins and losses all day. But if you start me with somebody who cares and has a passion for the people around them, You know what? I feel like I'm in good hands. And then the rest of the stuff, there's a lot of factors to winning and losing in the NFL. But I want to start with somebody who I feel like is invested in their heart and where they're at. And Zach Taylor is that kind of person. So I couldn't have more respect for him as well.
Knowing your history with this team and this franchise and this city, have you seen a player really connect with the community or the way the community's taken to him the way Joe Burrow has here in Cincinnati? I'm talking about the Bengals in the city of Cincinnati, how he's connected and they've connected to him.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I think that's one of the great things about his personality. You talk about another guy who's driven by his passion to be great and his passion to make a difference. And I think it's really special. And like I said, I think that's one of the coolest things of getting to be a Joe Burrow fan is that it's a lot more than just every day on a field on Sunday. And so I think it's going to be a really cool chapter of Cincinnati, Joe Burrow's time here. And I personally can't wait to watch it no matter what I'm doing. I'll be just as big a fan as anybody.
All right, so we want to ask you about the game, but before we ask you about the game, can we get your thoughts on this new offensive line from your perspective? How, obviously the talk last year was 70 sacks on Burrow in 1 year, postseason included, far too many for him, too young. So then they spent the offseason addressing it. 4 out of 5 new starters. I know it's early on, but just give us your thoughts on what you've seen in the tape and the games that you've watched of this line specifically.
Well, I think the first thing is, it's going to take time. Anytime you add, I don't care how good players are, anytime you add 4 new players in an offensive line group, it's going to take time for them to learn to be on the same page and to do things well together and to communicate. When I played with Clint Bowling here, we played together 6-7 years, something like that. And we didn't even have to use words that meant anything. Like I get to say Clint's name, and he knew that meant 5,000 different things, right? So that's the kind of bond you have to have with the guys you play with when you play a position where I'm not running a route. I'm not picking somebody to throw the ball. The only way I'm any good at my job is the ability that I have to work side by side with the person who's beside me. And so that takes time to get to know each other that way, understand how each other plays in games. Think about it. They've only played now 3 games together. So to play in a real game, you can practice all you want. You can play in every preseason game you want to. It's nothing like playing in a real game. So playing in real games against real dogs who are actually trying to tackle the quarterback, it's just different. And it takes time to be on the same page and to figure things out. And then also, I think it's a correlation of just a lot of things. You look at the first couple weeks, they're taking a lot of heat. Sure, there's some plays that could be better. There's a lot of plays where Joe could get the ball out of his hand too. And like Ryan Fitzpatrick said it last week, when you're taking that many sacks, that's not just offensive line play. That's routes need to be open faster, give the chance for the quarterback to get the ball out of his hand. Quarterback needs to have it in his mindset. Sometimes I need to get the ball out of my hand. You think about offensive football, different than defensive football. It's about all 11 and really confidence and building confidence. Well, how does a quarterback instill confidence in his line? It's not throwing bombs or anything like that. It's, you know what, I'll get the ball out of my hand on plays where it should be out of my hand. I won't leave you guys in tough situations. As an offensive lineman, it's, hey, in the situations where I need to give you some time, I'll give you a little more time, but plays where I know it's a 3-step, where I know the ball is supposed to come out fast, I need to be able to trust that you're actually going to get the ball out of your hand. You know what I mean? So it's really, to me, it's about, if you really think about it, it's not about blaming a group. It's about understanding this whole group has got to spend a little more time together, get a little more confidence in each other, and just build that trust level to where they learn how to trust each other. And when they learn how to trust each other, they're going to only go up from there, because it's not a talent issue. It's not we don't have skill. We don't have the quarterback. We don't have a line. You have good players everywhere. It's just give them a little time to get confident in one another. Also with this football team, last year, they were 7-6 at one point. And they caught fire and went 6-1 to get themselves to the Super Bowl and were +9 in the turnover margin, which is, outside of points, the number one factor in the NFL on whether you win or lose a game. So they need to play a little better on offense, and they got to create turnovers on defense. And it's a team game. And so to me, it's not time to panic. If you really look at the sacks last year compared to right now, they're not any different. You look at the turnovers, they're not much different. And the record, the only difference is a last-second field goal against the Vikings before time ran out. That's literally the only difference on the record. I would actually argue the Chicago game last year is worse than any performance that we've had this year, because that wasn't a very good football team, and you lost to them. Right now, Dallas has proven that's a heck of a defensive football team that you played against.
Yep.
And Cooper Rush is playing really good football. In Pittsburgh, I mean, I think that defense team before TJ Watt loses them, I mean, they're almost a different team than who you played 2 weeks ago, right? And then I think against the Jets, they played who they are, and they showed it, and they played that way, and this is who you expect them to be, and they should be able to build off of that and create confidence and go forward.
You really nailed it there. It takes time. It takes time to build that chemistry. You have that unique perspective of having, there's been questions about Zach Taylor's approach in the preseason. There's not a lot of hitting. Starters don't play in the preseason. Well, that came from Sean McVay, and you played for Sean McVay. Zach coached under him. That's the same approach. What do you make? You played in that type of a system. What do you look at that and think, well, that is potentially a reason why the Bengals have gotten off to a slow start, because there's not a lot of hitting and a lot of playing together, certainly in the preseason?
I think that everyone has a different take on that. I believe that at the end of the day, I'm just not someone who likes to look for excuses for why you don't perform.
Yeah.
And so that's an excuse. And so to me, I've learned a lot of things throughout my career, but one of them is when you're always searching for a reason, sometimes you're just searching for an excuse. And to me, the Rams have been one of the most successful organizations over the last 5 years in the NFL, really in history of the NFL. You look how many wins they've had, it's a pretty insane streak.
Oh, yeah.
And how many games they've won, everything else, offensive production, you name it. And we haven't played in but like one preseason game in the 5 years Sean's been there, and never done any kind of live hitting or any of that type stuff. And probably every year it's gotten less that they've done. So I don't think that that's a real reason. Now, I do think sometimes when you have young football teams or new guys that you've added, maybe there is like, hey, we've got to create some more opportunities to get these guys some experience together. I just would still argue that putting them out on the field in a preseason game is just, in my opinion, not the answer, because the real truth of preseason football is every defense runs nothing that they're going to run the regular season. Every offense stays as bland as possible. And you're not even running real plays that you'd run in the game, or even real concepts that you'd run in the game. So what are you getting any better at if you're actually doing anything? And if you'd say, well, they're taking time to play beside each other. Yeah, but they're not playing beside each other in the kind of competition they're going to play in a real game. So what does it matter? You can simulate that in practice. You can do that same thing in practice where nobody's going on the ground and my guys make it to the season healthy. Because you know what has shown to be more of a factor in whether you make it to the playoffs and whether you win a playoff game? How healthy your football team is. You look at all the next-gen stats you want to, everything, go to the league and tell them to print the chart of the teams who win playoff games and make it to the Super Bowl. Not coincidence that over the last 3 to 5 years, there's only been like one team that was on that chart that was a team that you'd consider a lot of injuries. Every other team was the healthiest team and got the least amount of injuries in training camp, specifically. In training camp, they had the least amount of guys get injured. And it's always correlates. So to me, it's one of those things people like to go back and look as that as the reason. But more important than whether you're on the same page in week 1 and 2 is whether you're showing up at the gate with the same guys that you intended on playing the season with and them being available to you on Sunday. And that is more important than anything else.
I just want to follow up on one more offensive line question before we talk about the game tomorrow. We got a chance to talk to offensive coordinator Brian Callahan. I don't know if he didn't really have any crossover with the Rams, right? But you obviously know who his dad is. The thing with LC, La'el Collins, right now is that he had that back injury and started training camp on the NFI list, and then he didn't really practice at all during training camp, and he was able to practice against the Rams when that fight happened, which was pretty juicy. And the first couple weeks haven't gone great for him, and now he's back to not practicing because he's dealing with the same back injury. I assume we don't know the details of it, but I was asking Brian, how do you manage a player like him where you need him to play, but both Frank Pollock and Brian Callahan said that they wanted him to practice, like, because he's new to this system. Obviously, he has familiarity with his O-line coach, but how do you think it's a big deal if he's not able to practice on Wednesdays, and if they're saying they need him to practice, but he can't practice? Like, do you think a player like LC is going to be able to figure that out, how to manage himself to be able to get to game day and be able to be productive on game day?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is he's got to get healthy enough to get out there a little more. I mean, it'd be one thing, I don't really know what their schedule is as far as how they walk through and do all that. But if he's making every walkthrough and he's participating in all the walkthroughs throughout a week, and then maybe finding a way to get in one practice, maybe it's a Friday, something to where at least you get like to moving around at full speed at some point in the week. That's what you'd really want to have happen, because it is hard, even at my age. I mean, I played my last 5 years at 36, 37, 38, 39, 40 years old. Like, I couldn't go through every day of practice, but every week on Thursday, which was our padded day, I practiced on the padded practice day. And then on Fridays, I would take the majority of reps, unless there was just a random week where we're like, hey, we'd rather you not take Friday's practice reps, just take half of them or something like that. But I always was out there on the day we wore pads. And to me, it was just I needed to be out there just to get a feel, And so I think it's really tough for him right now in a new system, new offense, to have this injury. But, injuries are injuries. And you know what? I would say that he doesn't need to be out there for practice, but even more so, he needs to be out there for the game. So if the only way we're going to get him in the game is for him to have the opportunity to not practice during the week, then that is the priority. But obviously, you'd want to live in a world, especially new to an offense, new to an offensive line group. You'd love to have some reps where they get a chance to do some stuff together in practice to prepare these game plans and know really that you can handle certain things. Because every week you're putting in new plays, new philosophies. You want to see somebody execute it for real to make sure you have some confidence in it. I just talked about it. Offense takes confidence and building confidence. Sometimes the coaches need to be able to build a little confidence. So they want to see you execute something during the week. So they're like, all right, I'm confident to call this on Sunday. So, yeah, I mean, obviously in a perfect world, hopefully he can get healthy enough to get out there a little more in the week.
So now let's talk about tomorrow's game, the reason you're here. Are you allowed to make a pick, or are you not allowed to make a pick?
I don't know. We'll stay away from it.
Okay, we won't ask you that. So
one thing I've learned as a rookie to the media, you just say, I'll wait and ask, So I'd rather ask in this situation.
All right, I'll start with the offense, and Jason will take the defense. What do you think are going to be some of the intriguing matchups, and what do you think about the way the Bengals offense matches up against this Miami defense?
Well, I think you're going to see the opportunity. Obviously Miami has done this, for a while now. They love to walk people up. They love to show you some of these zero looks, create a lot of stress on the offense. I think sometimes that plays more in their favor when they're at home, obviously. And so it'll be interesting to see if they have the guts to do that with some of the talent you have at the skill positions offensively, because, that's not the world I'd want to live in, with Jamar Chase and T and all these guys. I mean, they're just too explosive. To put corners on an island like that. But, that's really the thing they do that's one of the best is they create a lot of stress on your offense for picking up who. I mean, it's going to be a big challenge, like we just said, for the offensive line that's new with each other and all this, because much how Dallas lined up, how these guys will line up in a lot of situations. Now, they don't have some of the players that Dallas has that are rushing, but they will give you some of these complicated looks where you're deciding on who the most dangerous players are and trying to communicate who's got who. And there's a lot of good communication that's got to happen to pick up some of these things. And Joe's got to be able to trust that you guys get the message, you understand who we're picking up, because there's going to be some throws against this kind of defense where he's going to have to trust that he knows exactly who's coming free and he can fade away from the free defender. In a lot of these looks, because they're going to bring more than you have at times. It's just what they do. They love to do that. They create a lot of sack fumbles doing it. So it's going to be one of those weeks where they're going to be – this is a great test. Last week they got a chance to get some pretty regulated looks up front, and they played well. This week you're going to get a lot of the looks that, have caused you problems a little bit to start the season and have you grown and learned a little bit from the process. And then also for Zach Taylor and the coaches, can we have a little bit better philosophy maybe, since we've seen there's been some struggles for how we can handle this, condensed formations, whatever it is that we need to do to clear up the picture for everybody.
Like you said, the offensive line takes time. What are you seeing about why they can't run the ball? And do you still see Joe Mixon having the burst that he had last year?
Yeah, I think to me that's what's funny is that when you talk about the season and the sacks and the turnovers and some of the lack of production that you want to see, that is actually more concerning to me than all the other things people want to talk about. Like, you're going to have to, in this division, be able to play some defense and run the football well. And, right now they haven't shown a consistent way to run the football and really even a consistent formation or how they want to run it. Just haven't been able to find it. And to me, that's more concerning because that's going to have to get going and be a part of this offense. Not only that, but we just talked about the communication it takes and all this. The other thing that helps offensive line plays and quarterbacks, not being in 3rd and 8 all the time. So if you run the football well and you get in 3rd and short, 3rd and 4 or less, now you're going to get lots of man coverage. You're going to get a lot cleaner looks. Now you just got to beat people quickly. You can run 3 steps, get the ball out of your hand. You can do all kinds of things where now offensively you're kind of in the driver's seat. When you got yourself behind the chains, which is typical of a team that can't run the football, you're either getting a lot of penalties or you can't run the football when that's the situation. And you got to be able to do that to get yourself in more positive downs to where you're not always trying to come up with this genius 3rd and 7 call. Like, we got to hold it. We got to get somebody open down the field. You're creating your own stress by not running the football well.
As you look at this game, there's been questions about whether Tua is going to play. He's banged up. Do you expect him to play?
Yeah, I think he'll play. I mean,
Yeah.
I think there's some other guys, too, up front that are banged up. It'd be interesting to see. I mean, I know Teron Armstead last week took him all the way to the game to know whether he'd play. I would imagine if that injury is that bad, then, playing on Thursday is probably going to be really tough. So I wouldn't think that, he may be a guy who's going to definitely be out. But, look, the bottom line is in the NFL, everybody's injured and everybody's banged up, and it just happens. And it's about the fortitude and attitude of, regardless of excuses and circumstances and situations, we're going to find a way to win football games. And I think Miami will have some guys banged up, so will Cincy, and it's going to be about who's going to go out there and compete the best on a short week.
Yeah. Kelsey and I talked on the podcast last week about the Bengals defense. They've been a little overshadowed because of all the offensive stuff, but they are solid across the board. I want to ask you what your thought is on this Bengals defense.
I think it's one of the craziest things to me. I mean, they're so good, and it's pretty wild because, and not really a derogatory thing to any of them. It's not like you really would say that anybody's like an absolute superstar.
Yeah.
They're just all really good. And they play great team defense. You don't see a lot of MAs. You don't see a lot of mistakes. You don't see any freebies. Like they kind of just are always where they need to be. They make every play tough. Like, oh man, the team got it. But you know what? It was a great throw. It was a great catch. It was a great pickup. It was a great job by the quarterback extending the play. Like, they make you work for everything you get. And I think that's the biggest compliment you can give a group. I just think they play so well together. When Trey Hendrickson and some of these guys get hot, I mean, he's a guy that can really affect the quarterback when he gets in the groove, and you saw that last week, and that'll be a big part of this game too. I mean, the tough part's going to be Miami's going to run a lot of play action, which is a lot harder to get these guys off these blocks at times, and they're really good at it. And so it's going to be a lot of team defense type stuff. When you're talking about play action football, it's about a D lineman finding a way to get back there and get some kind of pressure, move the quarterback, even if you can't get there in time, get him to have to move his feet and not set his feet and throw. And then on the back end, being able to hold up, because you're going to have to hold up a little bit longer when you're running these play actions.
Well,
I was just going to say, I know you're headed to practice, so we're going to let you go. But since you can't pick, we can phrase it like this. The Bengals will win if blank.
Oh, man. I think tomorrow night, obviously, what I touched on earlier, they got to have a plan for these looks, these zero looks, and they got to execute them. You look at the teams that have beat them and handled them defensively, it's been teams that handle that stuff because they're going to bring a lot of stuff where it's going to be, we got to have a plan for these different looks, how we're going to get the ball out. Is it wide receiver screens? Is it quick passes? Is it sliding one way and letting Joe fade away from extra pressure? You're going to see a lot of those looks. They got to handle those looks. And if you can do it early, you can put them in a situation where they have to back off and play real defense, and that's not what they really want to do with their guys, because they don't have true rush threats. without creating those opportunities. So they would live more, and Cincinnati's going to live more in their world if they can handle those zero looks. They'll back the Dolphins off, and they'll be able to live a little bit more in control of the game. And then defensively, it's finding a way to create pressure. I mean, especially if some of these linemen are down, you got to have a plan for these play actions. They're going to have a ton of plays. It's this Sean McVay type offense. Ton of plays. Shanahan, Kyle, all those guys, they run these plays. They all look the same, but it's all different things coming at you. And so they're going to have a plan defensively to really knock that down, limit some of the big screens to Tyreek and Waddle. They get those guys the ball in a lot of different ways, so you're going to have to be all over it.
One more question about the game. What is your game plan? You wound up in the dog pound last week in Cleveland. Where will you end up this week?
Oh, we're going in the jungle, man. Come on, let's go. I'm ready. I can't wait. I've already got me a special jersey I'm going to wear tomorrow night, honoring somebody that means a lot to me, and he's having a special night tomorrow night. So I'll have my uni ready, and I'll be in the jungle somewhere celebrating the fans a little bit, getting ready for a big game.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank y'all.
Give it up for Andrew Whitworth.
Appreciate it.
Walk you